Oh, this is the superhero one. Okay, so hello everyone. We are doing. This is continuing on bio. So what we're going to be doing is a total change from evolution. Now we're doing body systems. Yeah, I do need you to finish those quizzes and get those done, and then get the assignments done. And I have been told we are meeting in class next week, next Monday and Tuesday. I'll see you. Okay, so that will be good. Better to me, it's finally get to meet you, and we'll be good that way. So, let's get started here. So, we've talked about levels of organizations the first time we did bio. So we have covered organelles, cells, tissues, organisms. Now we're going to do organs and organ systems. Okay, so we're going to start there. And then we've also done the other half of it when we've done the biosphere and the higher end ones. But we're going to do organs and organ systems. So organs make up organ systems. Okay? So then we have to start here. So something called homeostasis. So homeostasis is the ability to maintain a relatively stable internal state that persists despite changes in the world outside. So plants, puppies, people, anything like that must regulate their internal environment to process energy and ultimately survive. So the way we do this is we have to regulate our temperature, our water balance, our blood sugar, heat distribution, everything like that. So homeostasis must be maintained. So our body has a certain pH in it that if it changes in any way, that's when it starts affecting us, and homeostasis is affected. Same with temperature. You'll start shivering, so it starts warming you up. Blood sugar, insulin gets released, glucagon as well. So it helps us. So if your blood sugar is too low, it tells you need food. As opposed to water balance as well. Water balance is one of the huge ones. Water balance is consistent with the whole body, so everything's involved in water balance. But that's part of homeostasis. So we must maintain homeostasis to survive, basically, and live. So then, this is ultimately what all the body systems will do, is help maintain that homeostasis and get not change very much at all. Okay? Oh man, that's my picture. So my computer's really slow today. I don't know why. So we'll go back here. So an organ system then is a group of organs that work together as a biological system to form one or more functions. Each organ has a particular job in the body and is made up of distinct tissues. So the organs make up the organ systems that allow it to work. I'm going to present this. It might be easier. Sorry, really slow. Okay. There's two different types, groups of organs that we have. So we have an organ, which is the major part of the organ system, and glands are accessory organs. So they play a role in the organ system, but not the major organs, or they help with another system as well. So it's not the major organ in one system, but it does help assist a system. Isn't that Wonder Woman?
Huh?
Isn't that Wonder Woman?
No.
Oh, sorry, we're watching some hero show. So there is 11 major organ systems in our body that all work together to make us what we are physically. So we have the digestive system, muscular system, then integumentary system, the lymphatic, the endocrine, the nervous, skeletal, male and female reproduction, respiratory, urinary, and circulatory. So we're going to go through these generally and more specifically in reproductive and nervous system. But not too much detail on them because otherwise that's a lot of information that we don't need to cover at this moment. Because in your GED questions, what they do is they give you background information so you can answer your questions, and you go that way. So we'll start with the digestive system. Most people know what this is, but yeah, so this here is a picture of the digestive system. So all these labeled parts are part of the digestive system. So the function of it is ingestion of food, secretion of food, fluids and digestive enzymes, mixing and movement of food and waste through the body, digestion of food into smaller pieces, absorption of nutrients, excretion of waste. Okay? So we first ingest food, and then the salivary glands release an enzyme to break down our food. Then it moves down our esophagus here into, I believe I have it, into your large intestine, then your small intestine, and then it goes into your rectum, and then you excrete it out. Okay? We probably all know that. It's just a matter of recapping it. So the major organs then, the ones that have the main part of it, is the mouth, the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and anus. So the accessory organs then are the salivary glands, the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. So in the in the mouth, there's a couple kinds of digestion that happens. There's something called mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. So mechanical digestion is the physical act of chewing. Mechanical, so movement, something physical, as opposed to chemical digestion, something that, like the amylase that gets secreted in your salivary glands, is the chemical digestion. So the fact that the chemical is breaking down the food. Yeah. And also there's stuff, enzymes and hormones released in your pancreas, the liver, and your gallbladder. So these are the functions of them. So in the mouth, mechanical processing, moistened with and mixing with salivary secretions, and they make the amylase. It's the salivary glands. Then the pharynx propels the food down the esophagus. So there's something called, so your epiglottis is right here. So it either goes to your lungs or your stomach. You want it to go down into your stomach to your esophagus. There's an action called peristalsis, which is the movement of food down your stomach, down your esophagus, so it doesn't go too fast. So it's kind of like when you try and move something down pantyhose, it doesn't work very well. You have to do it slowly. You try and move something large out of a pair of pantyhose. It's rather difficult. And so once it gets to the stomach, then it breaks down the food, the materials, with acid and enzymes. And so mechanical processing occurs through muscular contractions. And so in your liver, something called bile, so it helps digest fats. Your pancreas will they secrete buffers so your stomach doesn't basically burn in on itself because your stomach is quite acidic. Your gallbladder stores the bile that's produced in your liver that's excess. Your large intestine dehydrates and compacts the indigestible food for elimination. And then the small intestine absorbs water and vitamins and ions. Okay? So this is the order of it. So it goes from mouth, teeth, salivary glands, pharynx, esophagus, liver, stomach, pancreas, large intestine, small intestine, rectum, and then anus. Okay? So that's the digestive system. Quite important because we all like to eat. It's a good thing to do. Same thing with drinking. We'll do the same thing. So it follows the same path, but doesn't have to do peristalsis down the esophagus. Okay then. So this one here is quite intense. We don't have to know a lot of this. Your muscular system. You cover, if you ever take an anatomy, anything like that, you do muscular, you do nerves, you do everything like that. So the muscular is what you cover there. And the skeletal, which is the bones. So the muscular system is an organ system consisting of skeletal, smooth, and cardiac muscles. See all the different type of muscles? They all make up the muscular system. There's about 700 named muscles that make up half a person's body weight. So these muscles in a discrete organ constructed of skeletal muscle tissue, blood vessels, tendons, and nerves. Okay. The function is to permit movement of the body, maintain posture, and circulate blood through the body. Oh, I only put one slide. But yeah, mostly the muscular system is the support that prevents the movement, allows us to do things, really. If we didn't have muscles, we couldn't lift anything. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't breathe. We wouldn't be alive. Okay? This is the front view and the back view. You don't have to know what all the muscles are, you just have to know what this muscular system is. So then this one here. This is your integumentary system. So this pretty much is your basically your skin, right? So a function to act as a barrier to protect the body from outside the world. So it's a barrier. Retains body fluids, protects against disease, eliminates waste products, regulates body temperature, vitamin D production by your skin, and excretion, so like the sweat. So this includes the skin, the hair, nails, glands, and nerves. So the largest organ in the body is your skin. So the skin being the largest organ, it has a pretty huge effect on us. So if we lose part of our skin, like if you get a little cut, it doesn't make a huge difference. But if you lose a lot of it, that would make a difference. So this here is a skin cell. You don't have to know all the parts of it, or just have to know what it looks like. So the skin cell is quite intense for what it is. Through our skin, we have hair growing, we get pimples, we get moles, we get everything. Blood vessels. Nails are a part of this system here, and that's the anatomy of a nail. This also includes your immune system, but the immune system is quite complex for what it is, and we're not going to really cover that, even though it's very cool. But it does. Immune system is a huge part of what we need to survive. So this is immune system is part of this system because your blood flows underneath your skin. So it's that part. So the immune system in this part would consist of all your blood cells, your white blood cells, your red blood cells, your killer T cells, everything like that. Okay. So we might have to do another day on immune system, viruses, bacteria, thing like that, but we can do that. We can make that work. I can even just post an extra little video on that, and we can do that as well. Okay. So yeah, so this is your skin. This is your barrier. So your lymphatic system then is a network of tissues and organs that help rid the body of toxins, waste, and other unwanted materials. Okay. So it's oh man. So the lymphatic system and the integumentary system kind of work together. They all do work together, but more so these two. So in the lymphatic, it maintains the balance of fluid between the blood and tissues, known as fluid homeostasis. So this is your if you retain water or something, right? Things like that. Balance of fluid and blood in the tissues. It forms part of the body's immune system and helps defend against bacteria and other intruders. So in your bone marrow is where your blood cells are produced. Your white and red blood cells are produced, and everything like that. So if you don't have the bone marrow, you don't have an immune system. So they produce a major part of your immune system, but it does work separately. So it facilitates absorption of fats and fat-soluble nutrients in the digestive system, which is what the lymphatic does. So what's included is bone marrow and thymus, which are the primary. Secondary are your lymph nodes. Come on here. The spleen, the tonsils, and certain tissues and mucous membranes. So like the bowel. So the appendix, like I was saying, some things have become kind of useless. The appendix is not useless. They believe it's part of the immune system, just in a minor way. But all these, so if you get sick, sometimes you get swollen lymph nodes. That's what's happening. Is your immune system is attacking itself, and it inflames. So there's lymph nodes a couple spots in your armpits, under your neck, in your groin, things like that. And your anoids as well are right here. People who snore, their anoids sometimes can be inflamed, and they get them taken out, and they're fine.
Wow, guppies.
And then this is your lymphatic system. Okay, so the major ones. So your spleen filters blood. Have you ever listened to that song? What does the spleen do? Well, probably not. Maybe I just listen to weird music, but that's okay. I wish I could play it for you. You can hear it, but it won't play on here, unfortunately. So it's kind of hard. Maybe I have to play it for you on Monday because it's pretty great. So what does the spleen do?
If you're doing that one, you also have to play What Does the Fox Say?
Oh, yeah, that's true too. We have to play a couple of songs then. So this includes your capillaries, your vessels, your nodes, thymus, spleen, and tonsils are the major ones of here, in your bone marrow, which is in your bones. So your immune system is a huge part of who you are, like how you defend against what enters your body, right? So when we did bacteria, I said when you get sick, it's just an abundance of certain bacteria. Your immune system defends against this, okay? So I can create another, I don't know. Either I'll create another video or we will talk about it on Monday, which might be a better option. I'll just include it in what we're doing. So, along with all of this, so we have digestion, muscular, integumentary, lymphatic. Now we have the endocrine. The endocrine is quite complex in terms of what it is because it affects every part of your body. Because endocrine release hormones into the bloodstream. Hormones do pretty much everything. Endocrine hormones help control moods, growth, development, the way our organs work, metabolism, and reproduction. Pretty much help everything work in our body properly. And the endocrine systems regulate how much of each of hormones released. So the brain is where some of the hormones are released, and all these glands either release hormones or store them. Will most likely release them. Or they are acted upon. So like the testes and the ovaries, and male and female. Okay? So you don't have to know this. It's just a matter of the function of them. So major organs are your hypothalamus, which is like the So it's which makes hormones that control the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland responds to signals from the hypothalamus, releases hormones to control other endocrine glands. Oh man. The pineal gland secretes melatonin, melatonin helps you sleep. So it helps daylight and seasonal changes. And then the others will help you release hormones or store them, right? So the pancreas has insulin, glucagon, things like that. Ovaries, progesterone and estrogen are acted upon there. And the testes is testosterone. Okay. The thymus helps produce part of the immune cells, which is your T cells. And in your immune system, you have T cells and B cells. But that helps stimulate the T cell development. And so these are just the major parts of the endocrine system themselves. Okay. So it's a very complex system, and there's a lot of detail to it based on what gets released when and where it goes, things like that. But all you have to know is it releases hormones and helps regulate everything we do, basically. Okay. So then we have the muscular system. Now we have the skeletal system. So the skeletal system then works as a support structure for your body. It's also called the musculoskeletal system, just because the bones and the muscles work together. So it includes the head, including the bones of the skull, the face, the auditory ossicles, which are your ears, your hyoid bone, your thorax, including the ribcage and sternum, and your vertebral column. So everything that you see is included in your skeletal system. So everything that makes your structure, like the bone aspect. So it provides shape and support, enables movement, same with the muscular system, which is why it's called the musculoskeletal system, protects internal organs, produces blood cells, stores certain materials until they're needed by the body. Because in the bone marrow, this is where your blood cells are produced. Okay? Your rib cage protects your heart and your lungs. Right? And your pelvis protects your inner organs, your reproductive organs. So, and your skull protects your brain. It's all support and structure. So that's a skeletal system. We're going it through quickly, but there is some more to do later on. Sorry. So respiratory system is the network of organs and tissues that help you breathe. So respiratory being breathing for the most part. It includes your airways, your lungs, blood vessels. The muscles that power your lungs are also part of the respiratory system. They work together to move oxygen throughout the body and clean out waste gases like carbon dioxide. So like when we do talk about plants, the plants take in CO2 and release oxygen. We breathe in oxygen and release CO2. Okay? So it's quite the opposite, but we need the plants, we need trees, they need us so they can do their process. Clean the air. So the functions of this: gas exchange, so intake of O2 and removal of CO2, regulation of blood pH, olfactory sensation, so smelling, vocalization, and excretion of water and heat. So this includes, do I have a list? Oh my goodness. What is happening? Sorry, I don't know what's happening. So this includes the nose and nasal cavity, sinuses, mouth, throat, voice box, which is your larynx, trachea, diaphragm, lungs, bronchial tubes and bronchi, bronchioles, air sacs, and capillaries. Okay, so everything in here is your respiratory. Everything works together to help you breathe, help you get gas exchange. So there's an upper and a lower respiratory tract. So if you ever had a respiratory tract, why is she singing? So if you ever had a respiratory tract infection, it's either upper or lower depending on where it is. I've had both. I don't suggest either, but that's okay. It happens. So the upper generally is like a sinus infection, or throat infection, or anything like that. So that'll include your nasal cavity, your pharynx, and your larynx. If you ever had laryngitis, you lose your voice. My daughter had pharyngitis. That was no fun. Was it? No, not fun. She just had her 1 year needles and she had pharyngitis afterwards. It's great. But then as you move down into your this green thing is your trachea. Is your windpipe. So if you've got your wind knocked out of you because you hit your throat, that's what you're hitting right there. So your lower respiratory tract then is your trachea here, your primary bronchi, which is the main stems that lead to your lungs, and then your lungs themselves. So with breathing then, have you seen cow lungs? Cow lungs are quite large, but they're very light. So cow lungs are pretty cool. If you blow air into them and they're still living, air will expand them, and then they go down. So when you breathe, which is why if you have children, you check if they're breathing, you feel their chest and see if their chest is rising up and down, because their lungs expand and then go down, expand and then go down. Or if you've exercised too much, you breathe too heavy. There's always that. So the bronchi they do the gas exchange. They help with the gas exchange and control how much goes in and how much goes out. So the heavier you're breathing, the more CO2 will be breathed out, which is why when you hyperventilate, sometimes you pass out. Or if you hold your breath too long, there's too much CO2. Okay? So, when you breathe, it involves a lot of muscle. So sometimes if it hurts to breathe, that's why. Or if you're outside and too cold, that's part of the issue. Because it's cold makes it hard to breathe because you can't get the gas exchange properly. It's like the video when I was talking about the deserts or like the snakes in Australia. We live here because the air hurts to breathe, but we don't like the snakes or the spiders in Australia. Yeah, that's why. It hurts because there's not enough gas exchange. Okay? Have you ever tried to do something when you're cold? It doesn't work very well. So what you have to do is increase the blood flow to help you move a little better. So if you're cold, it is a little bit harder to breathe as well. Okay? Urinary system. So the urinary system then it filters blood and creates urine as a waste byproduct. So functions of this: removes waste products and medicines from the body, balances the body's fluids, balances a variety of electrolytes, releases hormones to control blood pressure, releases a hormone to control red blood cell production, and helps with bone health and controlling calcium and phosphorus. So the urination basically helps with balancing the body's fluids, electrolytes, blood pressure, everything like that. So if you're dehydrated, you don't urinate very much because you don't have enough liquid to do so. Or if you drink too much, because you go to the bathroom way too often. But it also helps excrete medicines or excess things that are not necessary. You can also tell based on the color of your pee how healthy you are and if you need to drink more. Or if you eat beets, you have red pea. Or green pea if you eat too many green things. Or if there's blood in your urine, that's not good either. So anything like that. So your urine tells you a lot about you. So what you excrete tells a lot about how healthy you are and how healthy your kidneys are mostly. Because your kidneys, if they're not functioning properly, obviously you're not going to function properly, right? Could be a blockage like something like kidney stones or anything like that, really. Or a lot of females get bladder infections. That is no fun either. But men can get it, just not as often. So this is just a couple pictures. This is male and female. Same thing, male and female, just a little bit closer. I will go through them here. I should have put another picture. But that's okay. So both include kidneys, renal pelvis, ureters, bladder, and urethra. Which are right here. So like the kidneys, the ureter, the bladder, urethra. Ureter, bladder, urethra. So we all, male and female, both have those. It's just the difference would become how they do so. So the males, they have a penis, testes, prostate, and then the urethra is 8 inches long. So it goes to the end from your end of your penis to your prostate. From your prostate to your end of your penis. So that's about 8 inches, depending on the male, basically. The female has ovaries, a vagina, and the length of the urethra is 1.5 to 2 inches long. Females are more likely to get bladder infections or UTIs because the fact that it is shorter and it's not protected as much because it is quite open. And bacteria gets in there a lot more readily than in the males. So like our daughter, when she was potty training and still does get them, she's had 2 bladder infections now, which are no fun with 4-year-olds. For the record, don't do it. So yeah, it does happen though, more often than we care to know. But so the bladder here, or here, where's the bladder, Hattie? Yeah, right there. This is all controlled by hormones. The excretion is all controlled by hormones. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? But then those hormones help balance out the rest of your body. Okay. So this is urinary system is one of the main ones for homeostasis maintenance, along with circulatory and lymphatics. They all work together. The urinary is one of the main ones. But then circulatory is there's quite a lot to it as well, but we're not going to go through all of it because that would be here for a very long time if we did that. I took a whole course on cardiovascular, 3 months, and I don't know if you want to do that. Okay, so cardiovascular is one of the only ones. It's the only one that consists of 3 independent systems that work together. So the cardiovascular, which is the heart, the lungs, which is pulmonary, and then the arteries and veins with the lungs, and the systematic, which is coronary and portal vessels. So there's 3 systems that work together to make your circulatory system. It's responsible for flow of blood, nutrients, oxygen, and other gases, as well as hormones to and from cells. So the main parts are the heart, which is here, arteries, which carry blood from the heart with oxygen. This is why they're red. Veins, and they go down, and veins go back up to the heart, and they carry, and they don't, and they're blue or purpley color. And then blood is in one of the main parts as well. So all these red ones are arteries, all the blue ones are veins. So arteries are bigger, and then veins are narrow or smaller. Okay. And so arteries and veins connecting everywhere. Main ones being your carotid artery, which is up here. So if you cut that, you'll bleed out. And then the heart as well, but also throughout. So your aorta is huge because main blood flow through the, not main blood through the heart, but the aorta goes down, and it's still down here. So the aorta is all the way down. So if you watch doctor shows like an aortic dissection, it can happen all the way throughout. Okay. So this is just some random things which are kind of cool. Not all random, but an average adult has 5 to 6 quarts of blood, or 4.7 to 5.6 liters of blood, which is made up of plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. The heart is a muscular organ with 4 chambers. It pumps blood through the network of arteries and veins. They're called a cardiovascular system. The systematic part of it is the major portion of the circulatory system. So this includes veins, arteries, blood vessels, and they transport oxygenated blood from the heart, delivers oxygen and nutrients to the body cells, and returns the deoxygenated blood back to the heart. So in your body, you have about 60,000 miles of blood vessels controlling all your blood flow, which is a lot. So arteries carry oxygen-rich blood from the heart through the body. Veins carry oxygen-poor blood back to the heart. Superior vena cava carries oxygen-poor blood to the heart. The aorta carries oxygen and blood from the heart to the organs. So here, vena cava carries oxygen, poor blood to the heart, and this carries it out. So here, vena cava carries it in, aorta carries it out. Okay. So I just said that. This is a look at the more specific version of it. So this is your head and arms. These are your arteries, these are your veins, so as it goes out. So the way this works is the deoxygenated blood comes in, goes so it goes into the lungs. So because you have to go into the lungs, otherwise you're not getting anywhere. So what happens here is, so with the, let's assume we're going to start the deoxygenated blood's going back up to the body. So from your kidneys everywhere, from your legs up, it moves up the body. It goes into the right part of your heart. Okay? And this blood then gets pumped out, moves to your lungs, because at this point it's deoxygenated. So the blood now needs oxygen to survive, to move. Goes into your lungs, gets oxygen into the blood cells, goes back out into the other side of your heart, and then gets pumped out to the rest of your body. So it goes from your head and arms to your digestive tract, your kidneys, your legs, and then it repeats it all back over again. It goes all the way back. This happens every time your heart beats. This is a very quick process and quite efficient. Okay. So then, this is where we're going to get a little bit more detail into what we're doing. Sorry, it's like 11 o'clock at night here. So your nervous system is responsible for the control of your body and communication among its parts. Okay. So, organs included are your brain, your spinal cord, your sensory organs, and all the nerves that connect these organs with the rest of the body. There's a crazy amount of nerves in your body, and you don't have to know. There's just a lot of them. As you can see here, there's only some of them, but it's not even all of them. A plexus is a group of nerves that you have one in your shoulder, your brachial plexus, which is here. You have one in your sacral, which is right in here. Yeah, a group of nerves. And so they contain neurons that are connected together. So this is a neuron. So a neuron is the thing that is the main cell of your nervous system. So each of these are connected. So a synapse is connected to the dendrites here, and then a dendrite is connected through synapse is connected to a dendrite. So it's like a long chain that happens throughout your nervous system. Okay. Each of these has specific function, and then with them, a signal will travel all the way down your neuron connection. Okay, so there's something called a myelin sheath, and it's basically myelinated, so it protects the neuron from anything happening to it. But also, it makes it a little bit faster, and so it protects your nerves a little bit more, so they're not as reactive. Okay, so. But your nervous system, there's different types of neurons. So this is just the basic one. This is called an interneuron. But 3 main types of neurons work together to signal something called effectors, which are muscle cells, to respond appropriately to different stimuli. Pathway known as the reflex arc. You don't have to know the reflex arc, but you have to know it's there. So a sensory neuron gathers information from sensory receptors. It's like touch, sight, sound, taste, and transmit these to the brain. Why did you have to put glasses on?
Don't know.
So interneuron processes and integrates incoming sensory info from sensory neurons and relays outgoing information to motor neurons. This makes more sense when I go through the 2 parts. The motor neuron transports information from the brain to muscles, glands, and other organs. So sensory is anything that you can sense. Interneuron connects everything from the sensory. The motor is anything like muscles, glands, or other organs. Okay? And these are pictures of them. The difference is where the cell body is. So like an interneuron, the cell body is in the middle, and the axon and the dendrite extend out of it. So the sensory is still in the middle, but the axon is outside of the cell body. Supposed to the motor neuron, the cell body is in the dendrite. Okay? And this is a reflex arc or a neural circuit. So there's receptors on your skin. Sensory neurons receive info from receptors in the skin. Information is relayed to the brain by interneurons. And then the brain tells the appropriate muscle how to respond by transmitting a signal through motor neurons. So this is exactly what happens when you touch something hot. So you touch it, and then you release your finger right away, or your hand, or whatever you're touching. But this doesn't happen instantly. It's actually a slight delay, so this is why you get a little bit of pain. Okay, so there's two parts of the nervous system. So there's something called the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. They all work together and create our nervous system functions, basically. So our nervous system allows our body to function. Did I say that? Yeah. Controls communication, and we can function and move and think and see and talk and hear and everything like that. Okay? So the central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. So everything up here. And the peripheral nervous system is all the nerves outside of these things. Okay? So like the cranial nerves, the spinal nerves, the peripheral nerves. Okay. So the central nervous system then, which is the body, which is the brain and the spinal cord, these contain your interneurons. Are those ones that relay the sensory information. So, the brain is the center of our thoughts, the interpreter of an external environment, and the organ of control over body movement. The brain is pretty much amazing. So the brain, they're studying a lot about the brain right now, and they have been for a while, but they don't know everything that happens in it, but they have figured out how to the main parts of the brain work, which is good. But then what they do is the brain basically controls everything we do because of the structure of it. There's a lot of cranial nerves which control our movements and everything like that. And also our brain is attached to our spinal cord. So our brain allows us to walk. Tells our body to walk, tells our body to move something. If we didn't have neurons in our brain, we wouldn't allow to be able to move arms or anything. So the spinal cord is the highway for communication between the body and the brain. When it's injured, the exchange of information between the brain and other parts of the body are disrupted. So this is what causes like paraplegics, quadriplegics, numbness, anything like that. Herniated discs, because your spinal cord is here, it's kind of blurry, but it's all discs. So then, so the peripheral nervous system then is everything else. So your brain and your spinal cord is your central. This is your peripheral. So the PNS consists of the nerves and the ganglia outside the brain and the spinal cord. So everything on the outside, cranial nerves, the brain, everything like that here. So the primary role of this is to connect to the CNS, connect the central nervous system to the organs, limbs, and the skin. So the central nervous system is your brain, and it connects everything there, which is good, but then I'm getting distracted here, but the PNS connects the CNS to the organs. But the brain It controls everything, but it's the nerves that really help with the control of the system to everything else in your body. So it contains sensory and motor neurons.
I even sent him on a secret. Isn't that right, Miles Carter? Yep. When the team leader tells you to do something.
So there's two different flight sections here. So we have there's two different divisions. I'll go back to the picture after. Consists of the somatic system, which is a voluntary system. So I keep getting distracted by the show. Okay, so the somatic system is a voluntary system, carries information from the sensory receptors to the skeletal muscles. So the autonomic system is involuntary. This one maintains homeostasis, like breathing or heart rate. So the two, I go back to the picture after, but this is here. So there's something called the sympathetic. So the autonomic has two different other divisions in. So the sympathetic is the fight or flight response. So activated during stressful situations. There's a couple chemicals released to excite muscles. Blood pressure increases and heart rate beats faster to prepare your body. Digestion slows and bladder is constricted. So it's like polygraphs here. Your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your breathing rate all tend to increase when you're lying. So it's the same thing. So it's fight or flight. Parasympathetic is something called rest and digest. So it activated when the body is calm and at rest. So I tell people if you're stressed out or have anxiety, tell you to calm down just because what happens when you are stressed. So this does the opposite of sympathetic. Slows heart rate, reduces blood pressure, promotes digestion again. So we're going to go back here. So the fight or flight, your pupils dilate, you'll inhibit salivation. Salivation increase heart rate, relaxes airways, inhibit activity of the stomach, inhibit gallbladder, so no more bile, inhibit digestion, relaxes bladder, and it will also promote ejaculation and vaginal contraction as well. Okay, that's what your fight or flight will do. So the fight or flight being fight, you're going to stay and fight back. Flight being you're going to run away, depending on what the situation is. So that's what happens when you're stressed, or it's a high stressful situation. So when you calm down, this is what the opposite happens. So everything will be the opposite then. So then you'll be able to constrict your pupils, your saliva will produce again slow heart rate, constrict airways. So here you're breathing quite fast, here you're not. Okay. So the reason why it will inhibit stomach activity and digestion and urination and things like that is because all the blood is going to your muscles and your heart and your brain. It wants to power back. Blood only goes to the places it needs it, as opposed to here in the parasympathetic, that's where it's going. Now it doesn't need it everywhere else. So if like you're fasting, the first thing that happens is all the glucose that you do have on your body will go to your brain first because it has to function. It won't be the brain will be the first, the last, and then everything else will get shorted later. Okay, so this is just a description of what it is. So like this is your central nervous, your brain, and your spinal cord. Peripheral is every other nerve in your body. Okay, so this shows what's happening here. So your nervous system, central nervous system, in your peripheral, and this is your somatic, and your autonomic. So somatic is hearing, touch, muscles that move. Autonomic, internal senses for the gut. Emergency for sympathetic. Parasympathetic. Sympathetic is like housekeeping. And this is all controlled by your central nervous system. Okay? So it all works together to create your nervous system. Then, everyone's favorite, reproduction. We're not doing too much detail in this because it is quite detailed in what happens. Especially in the female, is a lot more detailed than what we need right here, than we need for your course. So, the reproductive system is an organism, also known as the genitalial system. It's made up of all anatomical organs involved in sexual reproduction. So the purpose of reproduction is to reproduce another organism like yourself. Like another human, like another animal, whatever the case is. Many non-living substances such as fluids, hormones, and pheromones are also important. So in reproduction, it's a whole body thing. It really is. Which is why we're not covering great detail, because there's a lot to it. It's all controlled by hormones, which is, so like in the females, you have progesterone and estrogen. In males, they also have estrogen, but they lower levels of it, but testosterone. So like females will also have testosterone, just lower levels of it. Okay, because if we didn't have testosterone, we wouldn't have hair growth. We wouldn't have muscle. Things like that. But we do have a little bit. I don't think I have a picture of. Okay, so what in the male? So it's the same. It's similar to what urinary would be, but it is. They have different functions. So like the ureter is involved here. That's the ureter. The vas deferens, which is where the sperm is produced. Prostate, your rectal tissue, your testes, and your penis, basically. Okay. So the females, much more complicated. Gotta be more complicated, of course. But the uterus here is there. Fallopian tubes, which get an egg released every month. And if it gets fertilized, you had implants, you make a baby. So, and then, so these are the ovaries. There's two of them, left and right. So each month they alternate. So one left and then right, same, vice versa. This here is the cervix. And then the vagina is here. Okay. We're just going to start with males, much less complicated. So all the part of the male is the sperm, the production of sperm. So the
Did you see what my son just did? Unfortunately, I was too busy looking around.
So for the males, they produce the sperm, and the females do the rest, basically. So the seminal vesicle here provides energy to the sperm. All these form the sperm and allow it to transport to the penis in the right here. So this here carries the sperm in, and then it gets ejaculated out. Okay, these are the second primary sex characteristics. This is a lot of words that you don't have to know, but this is what happens in puberty. This is why we're not going through all of this. So the hypothalamus will produce this hormone here, the gonadotropin releasing hormone, to the anterior pituitary releasing these two hormones, FSH and LH, creating sperm production here, and then testosterone here. It's all based on the hypothalamus. So the secondary sex characteristics, what you have to know out of this, is deepening of voice, facial hair, muscle, things like that. So estrogen, I did say females have more estrogen, but males have estrogen. Estrogen produces fat. Okay? Or the use of fat, right? This is females. So the females, where is it? The ovaries are here, release an egg. So when a female is inside of the mother, it has all the eggs it's ever going to have. So when I had my daughter, so we'll start. So when my mom had me, so essentially, if you look at it that way, every female has all their eggs when they're in the uterus, like they're being made. They have all their eggs. So my mom has carried my daughter essentially because the egg my daughter came from was in my. I know it's weird, but we have all the eggs we ever need and will ever get. So when we're out, that's when menopause starts. Okay, so the egg's released. It's matured. It's not matured till puberty. So then it's released, goes down the fallopian tubes, and then the fimbriae are like little hairs that release it, and then it carries the ovaries, connects the ovaries to the uterus itself is the oviduct. So it goes down the fallopian tubes and goes into the uterus. And once it releases there and it's not fertilized, that's when you get menstruation. When it is fertilized, that's when it creates a new life. Okay? The vagina is the birth canal, low pH to prevent microbes. The mucus is quite important, actually. It lowers the pH. Yeah, so that's female. A lot more complicated because there's so many more hormones involved in it. But we're not going through that because there's a lot. Secondary sex characteristics will be minimal facial and body hair, breast development, higher voice, narrower shoulders, wider hips, and less obvious muscle development. So that's reproduction quickly. It's not even everything because this picture here is puberty only in males. That's not even females. FSH and LH are used also in females because they don't go away. but it's just differently. So they help menstruation is what happens. Okay? So the reproduction then. So those are the reproductive organs, but together between the male and female, they make a new human after 9 months. but but yeah, so that's what reproduction is, right? Some of you probably have kids and you totally get this, but maybe not the anatomy of it. So I will be posting and sending you a video or a Google form as well. I'll create that tonight as well as the student notes. It's been a crazy couple days, but it's okay. We figured it out. But then so fill that out. We'll see you Monday. I suggest studying. There's going to be a little quiz for everything that we've covered from the beginning. So, yes, if you have any questions, please do ask. I hope you guys have a good day. I'll see you online tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Okay, now I have to.